famous singer forced a janitor to sing on stage. She didn't expect what came next. "Go ahead," Sienna Vale whispered, thrusting the microphone at the janitor, standing frozen center stage. "Show us what you've got, quitter." The spotlight burned against his face as 3,000 people watched in silence. His daughter's life-saving surgery cost $380,000, money he'd never see mopping floors. The famous singer's smirk said it all. She expected him to crumble, to validate her lie that he was nothing but a failure who'd abandoned his dreams. What she didn't know was that for 8 years, Elias Rowe had sung to only one audience member who mattered, his dying daughter. As he took the microphone, his hands trembling but his eyes resolute, Sienna's confident smile began to fade. She frantically signaled to her sound engineer, who was frantically disabling something at the control board. Too late. When Elias opened his mouth to sing, the raw, haunting melody that emerged wasn't just beautiful. It was authentic in a way Sienna's voice had never been. And that's when everyone in the audience realized. The janitor in the faded uniform possessed something the world-famous star did not. Have you ever wondered what would happen if a person's deepest secret was suddenly exposed? What would you do if revealing the truth could save your child, but destroy your own future? Today's story is about a father's impossible choice, a megastar's dangerous deception, and how one moment of public humiliation became the key to redemption. I'm Mr. Steven, and if this is your first time here, I invite you to join our storytelling family by subscribing right now. Hit that subscribe button and become part of a community that believes in the power of stories to change lives. Now let's begin. The polished marble floors of Ashford Lyric Hall gleamed under the stage lights as Elias Rowe guided his mop across them with practiced precision. 8 years of cleaning this historic venue had taught him every corner, every shadow, places where dreams soared and others where they crashed to earth. His own dreams had done the latter, though few remembered the man who once stood center stage on Golden Voice, his soulful tenor bringing judges to tears. Now he existed in the margins, invisible to the very industry that once promised him everything. "Hey, dreamer," called Jonah, his fellow custodian with salt and pepper hair and permanent laugh lines. Earth to Elias. "You're mopping the same spot for 5 minutes. Elias blinked, the present rushing back as he realized he'd been lost in thought again. "Sorry, just thinking about Mara's appointment tomorrow." Jonah's expression softened immediately at the mention of Elias's daughter. "Any news from the specialists?" "Same as always. The valve is deteriorating faster than they expected. She needs the surgery within the next 6 months. Elias resumed mopping, his movements more mechanical now. "Insurance still won't cover the experimental procedure." "How much?" Jonah asked, though they both knew the answer. $380,000. The number hung in the air between them, impossibly large, cruelly specific. Mara. His 8-year-old miracle with Naomi's gentle eyes and his stubborn chin. The only piece of his wife he had left. The same heart condition that had weakened Naomi during pregnancy had passed to their daughter, a cruel genetic lottery that seemed determined to take everything Elias loved. "Any word from the charity foundation?" Jonah asked, emptying another trash bin. "Another rejection," Elias whispered. "Too many applications, limited funds." Jonah rested a hand on his shoulder, the simple gesture conveying more understanding than words could. "Something will come through. It has to." The muffled roar of the audience grew as the main event approached. Global superstar Sienna Vale would grace the stage tonight for a charity gala ironically dedicated to children's medical care. The same Sienna Vale who'd been a contestant alongside Elias years ago, before her meteoric rise and his catastrophic fall. "Elias, need you backstage immediately." The stage manager's voice crackled over the radio clipped to his belt. "Spill in the East Wing dressing rooms. VIP area." He sighed, abandoning his current task. "On my way." As he wheeled the cleaning cart toward the dressing rooms, fragments of conversation drifted from the star's entourage. "Absolutely not. She needs complete vocal rest before the performance. The network wants another interview segment. Tell them she's preserving her voice." "That's final." Elias kept his head down as he navigated around harried assistants and security personnel. No one looked twice at the janitor. He was furniture, background, invisible, until he wasn't. "You? Watch where you're going." A sharp voice cut through the chaos as Elias's cart accidentally brushed against someone. He looked up to find himself face to face with Sienna Vale for the first time in 8 years. She was more beautiful than ever. Flawless makeup, designer clothes, perfectly styled hair. But her eyes were the same, cold, calculating, ambitious. For a brief moment, she didn't recognize him. Then her perfectly sculpted eyebrows rose slightly. Well, Elias Rowe, I heard you were working here. The chill in her voice made the temperature seem to drop. Ms. Vale, he acknowledged with a nod. Sorry about that. Just heading to clean up a spill. Her eyes traveled from his face to his uniform, lingering on the name tag. A smile curved her lips, not reaching her eyes. How the mighty have fallen. Still cleaning up messes, I see. Before he could respond, her entourage swept her away toward the stage. A young assistant stayed behind, looking embarrassed. I'm sorry about that. She's just tense before performances. Elias shrugged. No problem. Just doing my job. I actually voted for you, you know. On Golden Voice. You were amazing. The unexpected comment caught him off guard. Thanks. That was a lifetime ago. From the wings, Elias watched her rehearsal, something familiar yet jarring about her performance. The voice soaring through the hall seemed disconnected from the woman on stage. 8 years of musical training hadn't dulled his ear. Something wasn't right. Beautiful, isn't it? The voice startled him. Caleb Wright, the venue's veteran sound engineer, stood beside him, eyes fixed on his mixing board. Something's off, Elias murmured without thinking. Caleb's head snapped toward him, eyes suddenly alert. What did you say? Nothing. Just talking to myself. Caleb's eyes darted around before he leaned closer. Keep that observation to yourself if you want to keep this job. Elias frowned. What do you mean? Nothing. Forget I said anything. Caleb turned back to his equipment, fingers dancing over knobs and sliders with practiced precision. Just know that in this industry, people aren't always what they seem. The cryptic warning stayed with Elias as he finished his shift. When he arrived home to his small apartment, Mrs. Ortiz from next door was waiting. She had a good day, the elderly woman said, gathering her knitting. But she was tired after school. I made sure she took her medication. Thank you for watching her. Elias handed her the usual $20 he could barely afford. I don't know what we'd do without you. Mrs. Ortiz waved away his gratitude. Mara is an angel. Go see her. She's been waiting for you. He found his daughter propped up in bed, her dark curls framing a face too pale for a child her age. Despite her condition, her eyes lit up when she saw him. Dad, did you see any famous people today? Elias smiled, settling on the edge of her bed. Actually, I did. Sienna Vale is performing tonight. I love her songs. Mara exclaimed, then coughed slightly. Mrs. Ortiz let me watch her music videos on her tablet. She's so pretty. Not as pretty as you. He tucked a stray curl behind her ear. How are you feeling, sweetheart? I'm okay. The brave lie broke his heart. Did you sing today, Dad? It was their nightly ritual. Not yet. I was saving my voice for you. Mara snuggled against her pillows. Can you sing the song you wrote for Mom? The one about stars remembering. Of course. And there, in the quiet of their small apartment, Elias sang the melody he'd written during Naomi's final days. A song about love that transcends death, about stars keeping watch when loved ones are gone. His voice, still powerful despite years of disuse in public, filled the tiny bedroom with emotion that would have brought thousands to tears. When he finished, Mara's eyes were drifting closed. Dad? She whispered, fighting sleep. Why don't you sing for people anymore? You're better than anyone. He kissed her forehead. Because I'd rather sing just for you. The next morning, memories from 8 years ago played through Elias's mind as he accompanied Mara to her doctor's appointment. Mr. Rowe, Dr. Patel said, her expression grave as she showed them into her office after Mara's echocardiogram. The test results confirm what we suspected. Mara's mitral valve is deteriorating more rapidly than we anticipated. Without the specialized surgery, I'm afraid she is less than 6 months. The world seemed to tilt. 6 months? You said we had a year at her last checkup. I'm sorry. The condition is accelerating. There's a new procedure, the one we discussed, but as you know, it's still classified as experimental. Your insurance won't cover it. And there's nothing else that can be done? Elias asked, voice strained. Dr. Patel's eyes softened with compassion. We'll continue the current medication regimen to manage her symptoms, But ultimately, she needs the surgery. I've submitted another appeal to the insurance company, but I must be honest, it's unlikely they'll reverse their decision. Mara was quiet on the ride home, looking out the window at children playing in a park they passed. "Dad," she finally said, "am I going to die like Mom did?" The question pierced him like a physical blow. "No, sweetheart. We're going to get you that surgery." "But how?" "I heard Dr. Patel. It costs more money than we have." Elias reached over and squeezed her small hand. "Don't worry about that. Your job is to be strong and take your medicine. My job is to figure out the rest." "Deal." Mara nodded, but the worry didn't leave her eyes. "Deal." That evening, as Elias prepared for his shift at the Ashford Lyric Hall, his mind raced with desperate calculations. Even if he picked up double shifts and sold everything they owned, it wouldn't come close to the amount needed for Mara's surgery. The charity gala was in full swing when he arrived. Celebrities, executives, and socialites filled the hall as cameras broadcast the event nationwide. Elias stayed invisible in the wings, watching Sienna command the stage with practiced charisma. She was midway through her third song when he noticed Caleb, the sound engineer, making subtle adjustments at precisely coordinated moments. During a break in the performance, Elias approached Caleb. "Can I ask you something?" Caleb glanced around nervously. "Make it quick." "Earlier, when you said to keep my observations to myself, what did you mean?" The engineer hesitated, then spoke in a low voice. "Look, I could lose my job for even talking about this. But have you ever wondered why Sienna never does unscheduled performances? Why she preserves her voice before shows? Why her live vocals sound identical to her studio recordings?" Before Elias could respond, Sienna returned to the stage to thunderous applause. "And tonight," she announced, bathed in spotlights, "we celebrate authentic voices, those who rise above circumstances to create genuine beauty." Something inside Elias cracked at the hypocrisy. As if sensing his thoughts, Sienna's gaze suddenly locked with his across the stage. Recognition flashed in her eyes, followed by something darker, fear. "Actually," she pivoted, her smile turning predatory, "I see someone who knows about authentic voices. Our venue's janitor used to be quite the singer before he quit on his dreams. Come out here." The spotlight swung violently, finding Elias frozen in the wings. The audience tittered with anticipation. "Ladies and gentlemen, Elias Rowe, the wild card who ran from Golden Voice. Let's see if he remembers how to sing." Sienna's voice carried a challenge meant to humiliate. Stunned security guards ushered him forward as the audience applauded the unexpected entertainment. Elias found himself center stage for the first time in 8 years, his janitor's uniform a stark contrast to Sienna's designer gown. "Go ahead," Sienna whispered, thrusting the microphone at him. "Show us what you've got, quitter." The silence expanded like the hole in Mara's heart. In that moment, Elias saw his daughter's face, her brave smile despite endless hospital visits, how she begged him to sing when the pain kept her awake at night. Then he noticed something. Sienna had gestured frantically toward Caleb, who was frantically adjusting settings at the soundboard, disabling something. Elias took the microphone. The audience's expectant faces blurred as he closed his eyes and began to sing. A simple, haunting melody he'd written for Naomi during her final days. No backing track, no production, just raw emotion channeled through years of silent practice sung to an empty apartment while Mara slept. His voice filled every corner of the hall, revealing both technical brilliance and heartbreaking vulnerability. The audience fell completely silent, some reaching for tissues, others simply staring in disbelief. When he opened his eyes, he found Sienna pale-faced, backing away slowly. The song ended, and for 3 heartbeats, silence held the room hostage. Then thunderous applause erupted. Standing ovations rippled across the audience. Cameras zoomed in on his face, broadcasting his unintentional comeback to millions. "Thank you," he said simply, trying to hand the microphone back. But Sienna was already striding off stage, panic evident in her rigid posture. In the wings, Caleb caught his eye and gave him a subtle nod. If you're enjoying this story about Elias's unexpected moment in the spotlight, please take a second to hit the like button. Your support means everything to the Mr. Stephen Love Stories channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the perfect time. Join our storytelling family and never miss another heartwarming tale. Let's get back to Elias and discover what happens after his breathtaking performance. The next morning, Elias awoke to his phone buzzing incessantly. Mrs. Ortiz had taken Mara to school, allowing him a rare opportunity to sleep in after his late shift. Bleary-eyed, he checked the screen and froze. Dozens of missed calls from unknown numbers, hundreds of notifications, and text messages from people he hadn't heard from in years. Have you seen the news? You're everywhere. That was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. Please tell me you're making a comeback. The final message stopped his heart momentarily. I'm the real voice behind Sienna's tracks. We should talk. Iris. He quickly dressed and headed to work, only to find a small crowd gathered outside the service entrance of the Ashford Lyric Hall. Reporters with microphones. Curious onlookers with phones raised. There he is. Elias. Can we get a statement? How does it feel to upstage Sienna Vale? Are you planning a return to music? He pushed through the crowd, head down, making his way to the employees' entrance. Inside, Jonah was waiting, eyes wide with excitement. Man, you're famous. Again. That clip has over 3 million views already. 3 million. Jonah clapped him on the back. You didn't tell me you could sing like that. It never came up, Elias said weakly, heading for the locker room. Has management said anything? Jonah's expression grew serious. Mr. Donovan wants to see you. Right away. Heart sinking, Elias made his way to the venue manager's office, expecting to be fired on the spot. Instead, he found Benjamin Donovan, the normally stern manager, looking almost impressed. Row, he said, gesturing to a chair. Quite a performance last night. Sir, I'm sorry if I caused any trouble. MS. Vale put me on the spot, and I. Save it. I'm not angry. Donovan leaned forward. In fact, the board of directors is thrilled. The publicity from your performance has been extraordinary. Ticket inquiries for upcoming events have tripled overnight. Elias blinked in surprise. So, I'm not fired? Fired? Good God, no. Donovan laughed. But there have been some interesting developments. I've received calls from 3 different record labels asking for your contact information. And this arrived for you. He slid an envelope across the desk. Elias opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a check for $380,000, precisely the amount needed for Mara's surgery. Attached was a short note. Some voices were never meant to be hidden. Especially yours. Who sent this? Elias asked, unable to believe his eyes. Anonymous donor. Said they were moved by your performance. Donovan stood, extending his hand. Congratulations, Ro. Seems like your luck is finally changing. Dazed, Elias left the office and found his locker stuffed with business cards, producers, agents, journalists. As he stared at the check in his hand, another text came through. This one from the Children's Hospital. They'd heard about the donation and could schedule Mara's surgery within the week. Tears streaming down his face, he sank onto a bench in the empty locker room. For 8 years, he'd mopped floors in silence, believing he'd lost everything that mattered except Mara. But perhaps some melodies, once started, never truly end. They just wait for the right moment to be heard again. I thought I might find you here. Elias looked up to see Caleb, standing in the doorway. The sound engineer closed the door behind him, checking to ensure they were alone. I need to show you something, Caleb said, pulling out his phone. After what happened last night, I think you deserve to know the truth. He played a recording. Isolated vocal tracks from Sienna's performance the previous night. But instead of Sienna's voice, Elias heard someone else entirely. A richer, more technically proficient voice that had been seamlessly integrated into the live mix. I don't understand, Elias said. That's not Sienna singing. It never has been, Caleb replied. At least, not for the last 6 years. Every live performance uses pre-recorded vocals from a studio singer named Iris Moon. Sienna lip-syncs perfectly, and we engineers make sure the illusion is flawless. The in-ear monitors, the mixing board adjustments, it's all part of the deception. Elias stared at him in disbelief. That's why she panicked when she put me on the spot. She knew there was no backing track ready. Exactly. She tried to humiliate you, but she ended up exposing herself instead. The difference between authentic talent and manufactured celebrity couldn't have been clearer. Caleb pocketed his phone. Iris has been trying to break free from her contract for years. She's reached out to you because she sees an opportunity. Why are you telling me this? You could lose your job. Because I'm tired of being part of the lie. And because my daughter is a huge fan of yours from the Golden Voice days. She cried when you sang last night. Caleb's expression softened. Sometimes standing up for what's right is more important than job security. Later that day, Elias met Iris Moon in a quiet cafe several blocks from the venue. She was younger than he expected, with intelligent eyes and a wary demeanor. "Thank you for meeting me," she said once they were seated in a private corner. "I've been following your story since Golden Voice. What happened to your wife?" "I'm so sorry." "Thank you," Elias said. "Caleb explained your situation. You're the voice behind Sienna's success." Iris nodded, glancing around nervously. 6 years ago, I was a struggling session singer. Sienna's management approached me with what seemed like a dream job, providing backing vocals for live performances. Except they weren't backing vocals, they were the entire vocal track. Why would you agree to that? The money was incredible, especially at first, and they convinced me it was temporary, just until Sienna recovered from vocal strain. But one performance became 2, then a dozen, then years. Iris's hands trembled slightly around her coffee cup. I signed ironclad NDAs. If I broke silence, they'd not only sue me for everything I have, but they'd ensure I never worked in music again. So why reach out to me now? Because last night changed everything. When you sang, it was like watching someone break free from chains I've been wearing too long. Her eyes met his. And because I was the anonymous donor, Elias stared at her, stunned. The check? That was you. I've made millions being Sienna's secret voice. Money I can never publicly claim or take credit for. When I saw you perform, when I learned about your daughter, she shrugged. It seemed right that my voice should help save hers. I don't know what to say. Thank you doesn't begin to cover it. Don't thank me yet, Iris warned. Sienna's team is already in damage control. They're spinning a narrative that you were a planned part of the show, that it was all orchestrated to showcase unknown talent. But they're worried. What you did last night threatens everything they've built. As if on cue, Elias's phone rang with an unknown number. When he answered, a smooth male voice identified himself as legal counsel for Sienna Vale. "Mr. Rowe, my client would like to meet with you regarding a mutually beneficial arrangement. Could you come to her hotel suite this afternoon?" 3 hours later, Elias sat across from Sienna and her team of managers and attorneys in a luxurious hotel penthouse. The contrast between his worn jeans and their designer attire couldn't have been starker. "Let's cut to the chase," Sienna said, her voice lacking the warmth it held on stage. "Your little performance last night is generating unwanted questions. Questions that could be problematic for everyone involved." "Including Iris Moon?" Elias asked pointedly. The momentary flash of panic in Sienna's eyes confirmed his suspicions. She recovered quickly, however. "I'm prepared to offer you a very generous compensation package," she continued. $2 million, with the potential for more, in exchange for your discretion and cooperation. One of the attorneys slid a document across the table. "This agreement includes a non-disclosure clause regarding any production techniques you may believe you've observed, as well as a statement affirming that your appearance was planned as part of the show." Elias glanced at the paper. "And if I don't sign?" The lead attorney's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Then things could become very difficult for you. Defamation lawsuits are expensive to defend, Mr. Rowe, and allegations about vocal enhancements without evidence are easily dismissed as the bitter claims of a failed musician. We're offering you a way to provide for your daughter's future," Sienna added, her tone softening in a calculated manner. "Isn't that what matters most?" Elias thought of Mara, of the surgery that would now save her life thanks to Iris's generosity. He thought of Naomi, of the promise he'd made to always protect their daughter. And he thought of the 8 years he'd spent in silence, cleaning floors while others built careers on deception. "Actually," he said, standing up, "what matters most is the truth. My daughter deserves to grow up knowing that integrity isn't for sale." He moved toward the door. "Thank you for the offer, but I'll have to decline." "You're making a serious mistake," Sienna called after him. "You'll regret this decision." Elias paused at the door. "I've made plenty of mistakes in my life. Finally standing up for what's right isn't one of them." As he walked through the hotel lobby, his phone buzzed with a text from Jonah. "Turn on channel 7 now." Finding a television in the hotel bar, Elias watched in disbelief as a breaking entertainment news segment featured footage from his performance, side by side with isolated vocal tracks from Sienna's supposed live performances. Industry insiders are questioning the authenticity of superstar Sienna Vale's live vocals after audio engineer Caleb Wright released comparative tracks to major news outlets, the reporter announced. This development comes on the heels of last night's viral moment, when former Golden Voice contestant Elias Rowe delivered an impromptu performance that many are calling the most honest musical moment of the year. His phone exploded with notifications as the story spread like wildfire across social media. By the time he reached the hospital to visit Mara, #TheRealVoice was trending worldwide. I hope you're enjoying Elias's journey from janitor to truth teller. If this story resonates with you, please take a moment to like and share it with someone who appreciates stories about courage and authenticity. Your support helps our channel grow and allows us to bring more heartwarming tales to life. If you're not yet a subscriber to Mr. Stephen Love Stories, now's your chance. Hit that subscribe button and join our community. Now, let's return to Elias as he faces the consequences of standing up for the truth. Mara was sitting up in bed watching television when Elias arrived. Her eyes widened when she saw him. "Dad, you're on TV. Everyone's talking about you." He kissed her forehead, his heart swelling at the improved color in her cheeks. The hospital had moved quickly once they received the payment, already starting her on pre-surgical medications. "I know, sweetheart. It's been a crazy day. They're saying you're going to be famous again," Mara said excitedly. "Are you going back to singing?" Before Elias could respond, Dr. Patel entered with a tablet in hand. "Mr. Rowe, we've scheduled Mara's surgery for next Thursday. The specialist is flying in from Boston specifically for her case." That's wonderful news," Elias managed, emotion threatening to overwhelm him. Dr. Patel smiled. "I must admit, when you said you'd find a way to pay for the surgery, I didn't expect it to involve becoming an overnight sensation again. My daughter hasn't stopped talking about your performance." After the doctor left, Mara took his hand. "Dad, is it true what they're saying about that singer? That she doesn't really sing her songs?" Elias chose his words carefully. "Sometimes in life, Mara, people take shortcuts. They pretend to be something they're not because they're afraid the truth isn't good enough. But your voice is real. Everyone says so." Her innocent pride in him brought tears to his eyes. "Yes, because I was singing for something that matters. For you, and for the memory of your mother." The days that followed passed in a whirlwind of media coverage, legal threats, and unexpected support. Sienna's legal team filed a defamation lawsuit against Elias, Caleb, and Iris. But they hadn't counted on the court of public opinion turning so decisively against them. More sound engineers and session musicians came forward with evidence supporting Iris's claims. Former employees shared stories of elaborate deceptions designed to maintain Sienna's image as the voice of her generation. The scandal grew beyond one singer to expose industry-wide practices of vocal manipulation and uncredited performances. The night before Mara's surgery, Elias sat by her hospital bed, reading her favorite story until she fell asleep. His phone vibrated with a text from Iris. "Have you seen the news? Sienna's being forced to do an unassisted live performance tomorrow to disprove the allegations. It's being broadcast nationwide." The next morning, as Mara was being prepped for surgery, Elias waited in the family lounge where a television was tuned to the breaking entertainment story. Sienna Vale, looking uncharacteristically nervous, stood on a small stage in a television studio. "To address the malicious rumors circulating about my performances," she began, her voice already showing signs of strain without enhancement, "I've agreed to perform one of my signature songs completely live. No backing tracks, no technical assistance." What followed was painful to watch. Without the support of Iris's pre-recorded vocals, Sienna's voice cracked and wavered, struggling to hit notes that had supposedly been her trademark. By the second verse, it was unmistakably clear to millions of viewers that the voice they believed was hers had been an elaborate fabrication. The broadcast cut abruptly to commercials. Within hours, Sienna's record label issued a carefully worded statement about collaborative vocal performances and industry-standard enhancement techniques. The lawsuit against Elias, Caleb, and Iris was quietly withdrawn. 6 hours later, as Elias sat anxiously waiting for news about Mara's surgery, Dr. Patel emerged from the operating room, her surgical mask pulled down to reveal a smile. The surgery was successful, Mr. Rowe. We were able to repair the valve completely. Mara's going to need time to recover, but her prognosis is excellent. Relief washed over him in a wave so powerful he had to sit down. Can I see her? She's in recovery now. You can visit her in about an hour when she's settled in the ICU. She's going to be just fine. As he waited, his phone rang with a number he didn't recognize. The voice on the other end introduced himself as Thomas Lanier, CEO of Authentic Records. Mr. Rowe, I've been following your story with great interest. What happened to you? Both your personal tragedy and the industry blacklisting was unconscionable. I'd like to offer you a recording contract with complete creative control. No tricks, no shortcuts. Just your authentic voice. I appreciate the offer, Mr. Lanier, but my priority right now is my daughter's recovery. Of course, family comes first. The offer will remain open. In the meantime, we're also extending a contract to Ms. Moon. It's time the real voices in this industry get the recognition they deserve. 6 months later, the Ashford Lyric Hall was filled to capacity. But this time, Elias wasn't pushing a mop across its polished floors. He stood center stage, dressed in a simple black suit, a spotlight illuminating his figure as he addressed the audience. Thank you all for coming tonight. This evening is special for many reasons. It marks my official return to music after an 8-year absence. But more importantly, it's a celebration of truth, of second chances, and of the healing power of authentic voices. In the front row, Mara sat beaming up at him, her color healthy, her energy restored by the successful surgery. Beside her sat Jonah and Caleb, along with Mrs. Ortiz, who was dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief. I'd like to introduce someone very special, Elias continued. A remarkable artist whose voice you've heard for years, but whose face you've never seen. Please welcome to the stage for the first time under her own name, Iris Moon. Applause thundered through the hall as Iris walked onto the stage, no longer hidden in recording booths or behind NDAs. The industry reforms sparked by their case had led to new regulations requiring proper crediting for all vocal performances and limitations on the use of non-disclosure agreements to conceal artistic contributions. Together, they performed a duet Elias had written about finding your voice after years of silence. As their voices blended in perfect harmony, Elias caught Mara's eye in the front row. She was smiling so widely it seemed her face might split, occasionally turning to tell the person next to her, "That's my dad." For the finale, Elias performed solo, the same song he'd sung that fateful night when Sienna had tried to humiliate him, the song he'd written for Naomi. But this time, he added a new verse about the journey he and Mara had taken, about finding strength when it seemed all hope was lost. The standing ovation lasted for minutes. As roses showered the stage, Elias picked one up and knelt at the edge of the platform, extending it to Mara. She rushed forward to accept it, and he lifted her onto the stage beside him, his heart full as he presented her to the cheering crowd. "This is my daughter, Mara," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Everything I do for her." Later that night, after tucking an exhausted but happy Mara into bed, Elias stood by her window, looking up at the stars. He imagined Naomi watching over them, proud of how far they'd come. "Dad," Mara's sleepy voice called from her bed. "Yes, sweetheart. I'm glad you're singing for other people again. But will you still sing just for me sometimes?" He sat beside her, gently stroking her hair. "Always, Mara. Some songs are written for the whole world to hear. But the most important ones, those are just for you." As she drifted off to sleep, Elias hummed softly, his heart at peace for the first time in years. He had lost so much, but in finding his voice again, he had saved what mattered most. Thank you for joining me on this emotional journey of courage, truth, and redemption. If Elias's story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video and leave a comment sharing your thoughts. Your engagement helps our channel reach more people who appreciate meaningful stories. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Mr. Steven Love Stories and turn on notifications so you'll never miss another tale of love, sacrifice, and triumph. Until next time, remember that your authentic voice, whatever form it takes, is your greatest gift to the world. This is Mr. Steven, wishing you courage to speak your truth and strength to stand by it.